Welcome, trainers. SergiBit here. We are continuing our mission to complete every Pokémon game with Pokémon Omega Ruby. This time, we are taking on a vanilla Professor Oak challenge. If you are not familiar with this type of challenge, I recommend checking out my Pokémon Y video and reading the full rules in the description below. Even though it's in the same generation as Pokémon Y, Omega Ruby introduces a bunch of new mechanics we need to consider, and in this game, time-based events are especially tricky. Before we dive in, here are some self-imposed rules I'll be following for this particular playthrough. No game speed-ups are allowed. I'll be playing the game using a combination of a Nintendo 3DS XL and Citra Emulator, and I must own an original copy of the game. Alright trainers, with all that said, let's jump into our Omega Ruby adventure. We started this journey by meeting our neighbor and one of our rivals, May. After that, we helped Professor Birch and received our first Pokémon. In this case, I chose Trico. Then, we headed north to Oldale Town through Route 101. Once there, the only available path was straight north to Route 103, where we find May, who challenged us to a battle. Afterward, we returned to Little Root to receive the Pokédex from the Professor and the DexNap function from May. Back on Route 101, we start catching Pokémon right away, beginning with Wurmple and Zigzagoon. After a tutorial on the DexNap, we encountered and catch a Poochyena. Once again, we arrive in Oldale Town and head straight to the Pokémart to buy as many Pokéballs as we could. With that done, we moved on Route 102 to start catching again. At this point, May told us a new function of the DexNap. These features will be used frequently during this run, and I believe the DexNap is an excellent tool for challenges like this. It's one of the major differences from our Pokémon Y playthrough. With that, we proceed to catch SergiBit, Seedot, and both a female and male Ralphs. In the meantime, Wurmple evolved into Silcoon. Eventually, we arrive in Petalburg City, where we met Dat. Then the game forced us to a catching tutorial, which is ironic, as in our Calor run, because we already have quite a few Pokémon. We are also introduced to our rival, Wally. After all that, we went to Route 104 to catch a Wingull and a Taillow, and then head north to Petalburg Woods. Once there, we encountered Team Magma, the antagonists of this adventure, trying to steal from a scientist. After saving him, he rewarded us with another excellent tool for our quest, the experience share. We then caught a Rumish, two Slakoth, and our Silcoon evolved into Beautifly. We are also using the pickup ability to collect items, especially rare candies like in Pokémon Y. Moving forward, we caught our last Pokémon in the forest, a Cascoon. Once out of the forest, we were on the northern part of Route 104, which led to Rasboro City. While exploring the city, we received HM1 Cat and TM54 False Swipe, both very handy tools for this run. Using the DexNap and chaining several encounters, we were able to find rare Pokémon at a higher level than usual. This helped us evolve them sooner, and later, chaining allowed us to get rare items more easily. Using this method, we caught a level 17 Shroomish, and Seedot evolved into Nuzleaf. Like in Pokémon Y, we use Pokémon Ami and also avoided evolutions temporarily to boost experience gain. As you can see, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox for this game. After all this, we trade one of the Slakoth for a Makuhita in Rasboro City. Then we head east to Route 116, where we catch a Skitty and an Inkada. Finally, inside Rusturf Tunnel, we catch the last Pokémon for this phase, a Whismur. After that, Zigzagoon evolved into Linoone. Our grinding method on this section was using Sweet Scent from SergiBit to trigger Horde encounters, then use multi-hit moves to defeat all 5 Pokémon quickly. Since SergiBit learned Air Cutter right after evolving into Masquerain, it became our main training Pokémon for a while. Rusturf Tunnel was the best location to train using this method, as you can see in the footage, since it yields the most experience at once. Look at Masquerain's level. After many hours of training, Trico evolved into Grovyle, Slakoth into Vigoroth, Grovyle into Sceptile, who will be our False Swipe user, Taillow into Swellow, Cascoon into Dustox, and Ralts into Kirlia. All this grinding was done on the 3DS. Also, we did the Super Training minigames with Masquerain to earn the necessary evolution stones as shown in the video. Thanks to that, we evolved Skitty into Delcatty with a Moonstone, Nuzleaf into Shiftry with a Leaf Stone, and the male Kirlia into Gallade using a Dawnstone. We kept grinding, and the female Kirlia evolved into Gardevoir. Makuhita into Hariyama, Whismur into Laudred, Shroomish into Breloom, Vigoroth into Slaking, Nincada into Ninjask, which also gives us a Shevinja, Laudred into Exploud, and Poochyena into Mightyena. Just at this point, we received our first rare candy via the pickup ability. A bit late, Lainun. With the leveling almost complete, we defeated the gym trainers, during which Wing will evolve into Pelipper. Before wrapping up this part, I cooked an army of Zigzagoon to help gather more items using pickup in the near future. This was a long section where we made full use of various tools to train as efficiently as possible. We also ended up with a lot of items thanks to pickup. We finished this part with nearly 19 hours of gameplay. Not bad. With the first section finished, we went on to battle Roxanne and quickly earned our first badge, the Stone Badge. After leaving the gym, we had to follow a scientist from Devon Corp to recover some stolen parts. They should really consider investing in better security. This leads us to Rasturf Tunnel, where we met an old sailor who also asked for our help in retrieving his missing Pokémon. Inside the cave, we battled Team Magma and successfully recovered both the stolen item and the sailor's Pokémon. As a thank you, the sailor allowed us to use his boat, and Mr. Stone rewarded us with a DexNav update and unofficially hired us as a mail and package delivery person. Following these events, we returned to Route 104 and met Mr. Brini, who sailed us to Dewford Town. Upon arriving and exploring the area, we received the old rod from a local trainer. Here in Dewford, we fished and caught a Tentacool and a Magikarp. After that, we returned briefly to Petalburg to fish for a Goldeen. Back in Dewford, we continued our journey by exploring part of Granite Cave, where we caught a Zubat, an Abra, and a Geodude. With no more Pokémon to catch in this section, it was time to grind again. At first, I tried training through Horde encounters in Granite Cave, and also battling all remaining trainers on previous routes, including gym trainers. However, I eventually realized that the fastest method was to still battle in Rasturf Tunnel using Masqueraine's multi-hit moves and the experience share. After battling hundreds and hundreds of Whismur, Zubat evolved into Golbat, Geodude into Graveler, Abra into Kadabra, Magikarp into Gyarados, and Tentacool into Tentacruel. Eventually, Golbat evolved into Crobat by maxing his friendship value and Goldeen into Seeking. Although this might seem like a shorter section, it involved a lot of grinding due to the lack of good training spots. We are still using the same optimization strategies as before, such as Pokémon Ami and delaying evolutions to maximize experience gain. We are now approaching 24 hours of gameplay. Let's go take on the gym leader. As usual in these challenges, we made quick work of the gym leader, in this case Broly, earning our second badge, the Knuckle Badge. With that, we gain access to a new area in Granite Cave, where we meet Steven Stone and deliver the letter his father asked us to bring. With this quest completed, Mr. Brini allowed us to sail to Slateport City. Upon arrival, we thoroughly explored the city and returned the Devon parts to Captain Stern, only to discover that Team Magma was also after him. After defeating them and meeting Team Magma's boss, we were finally able to hand over the parts to the captain. Next, north of the city, we were introduced to Pokémon contests. After a long introduction and a practically forced tutorial, we were rewarded with a special Pikachu. Continuing along Route 110, we began catching 2 Oddies, an Electrike, a Voltorb, and a Minun. Some Team Magma grants pointed us towards Mobile City, but before heading there, we had more catching to do, starting with Gulpin and Magnemite. Using chaining, I managed to catch a high-level Magnemite that also held a Metal Coat. Nice! During all this, both Oddies evolved into Gloom, and later Gulpin evolved into Swallow. This all happened while I was searching for a Plusle. Since it wasn't showing up, I started training the newly caught Pokémon instead. Eventually, I decided to pause the search and head straight for Mobile. But before arriving, we had a battle with May, and as a reward, received the Dowsing Machine. From Route 110, we made our way to Mobile City and fully explored it. We also received the bike and had a quick encounter and battle with our other rival, Wally. After that, we returned to Granite Cave and explored a new area thanks to the bike. There, we caught Mawile and Aron. I tried unsuccessfully to catch a higher level Aron, but eventually gave up and returned to try again for Plusle, while training other Pokémon in the process. Thanks to this, Voltorb evolved into Electrode. After a bit of research, I learned that I could catch an Electrike with the static ability by chaining and then use that to help locate Plusle. It worked. Finally, Plusle was ours. Before continuing, I battled the trainers on Cycling Road and Route 103, where Electrike evolved into Manectric. We did the same on Route 117, battling every trainer and also catching a female Roselia, Illumise, Volbeat, and a female Marill. We also arrived at Verdan Turf Town and gained access to the daycare. With all that battling, Magnemite evolved into Magneton, and Marill evolved into Azumarill. We also began using the daycare to breed Azurill and Badu. With that done, it was time to train again. First, we battled all the remaining trainers on routes 117 and 118. Next, we beat the gym trainers, and finally started earning experience against Roselia encounters using Sweet Scent on route 117. We also earned some evolution stones through super training, which we used to evolve Roselia into Roserade with a shiny stone, one Gloom into Vileplume with a leaf stone, and the other Gloom into Velosong with a sunstone. Our final task in this section was evolving Aron into Lyron and then into Agron. This section had plenty of battles and, with access to the daycare, opened up a lot of new opportunities, on top of all the tools and boosts we had available so far. By the end of this part, we were approaching 32 hours of gameplay. Let's keep going. We faced Gym Leader Watson, defeated him and earned a new badge, the Dynamo badge. With Rock Smash available, we opened the blocked passage in Rustov Tunnel and returned to Granite Cave to catch a Nosepass. After that, we headed north from Mobile via Route 111 and cleared open the path ahead. A bit further along, on Route 112, our rival gave us HM4 Strength. Here, we caught a Machop and a Numel. Since Team Magma was blocking the main path forward, we detoured through Fiery Path. Inside, we caught a Slugma, Koffing, Grimer, and Torkoal. Once out of the cave, we were introduced to a tutorial on secret bases before heading straight to Route 113. On the volcanic soil of this route, we caught a Skarmory, a Sandshrew, and a Spinda. We also received the Soot Sack, which let us collect soot from the ash mounds spread in the area. We begin collecting soot right away, as we are aiming to grab the Black Flute, which increases the level of wild Pokémon, granting us more experience during battles. Combined with our other grinding methods, this became very helpful. After that, we arrived at Falarbor town. May informed us that a scientist has been abducted, and his wife asks for our help. This leads us to Route 114, where we also catch a Zangoose and a Swablu. During this stretch, our Machop evolved into Machoke. After clearing the route of trainers and gathering all the items, we reach Meteor Falls. Once there, we team up with May to battle Team Magma once again. We also meet Team Aqua, who point us towards Mount Chimney. Once Professor Cosmo was safe, we escorted him back to his home. Before continuing, we returned to Meteor Falls to catch a Solrock. With the cable car operational, we rode it to the summit of Mount Chimney, where Team Magma and Team Aqua were clashing. Eventually, we faced Magma admin Tabitha, and then Magma leader Maxi. After defeating them, we descended the mountain through Jagged Pass, where we caught a Spoink and Sandshrew evolved into Sandslash. Upon arriving at Lavaridge town, an old woman gave us an egg. After many steps, it had into a Wynaut. Time to grind again. This time, the best place by far was against Spinda Horde encounters on Route 113. We first used the Black Flute, then we used multi-hit moves to clear them as fast as possible. After many battles, Koffing evolved into Weezing, Grimer into Mach, Wynaut to Wobbuffet, Slugma into Magcargo, Namel into Camerupt, Spoink to Grumpig, and Swablu into Altaria. This section went by faster, and Route 113 will remain an excellent training ground moving forward. We are now halfway through the game, but believe me, we're still far from finishing it. We battled Flannery, and quickly earned our fourth badge, the Heat badge. Afterward, May rewards us with the safety goggles, which allowed us to access the desert area of Route 111. There we caught Baltoy, Cagnea, and Trapinch. We also picked up the root fossil and brought it to Devon Corp to revive it, obtaining a Lilim. With no more Pokémon left to catch in this area, it was time to return to training. we headed back to Route 111 to defeat all the remaining trainers, and then resumed our usual grinding strategy, defeating hordes of Spinder repeatedly. Through this training, we evolved Cagnia into Cacturn, Lilip into Credeli, Trapinch into Vibrava, Baltoy into Claydol, and finally Vibrava into Flygon. This was a very short section, one of the 2 shortest in the entire run. We are now sitting at 40 hours of gameplay, and there's still a lot left to cover. This time, we faced Gym Leader Norman, our dad, who stood no chance against us. With his defeat, we earned the Balance Badge. Upon leaving the gym, we also received a Gem 3, Surf, which opened up access to several new Pokémon to catch. Soon after, Wally asks us to travel to Route 118. Once there, the first thing we did was hunt for a Pelipper holding a lucky egg, which doubles the experience gained by the Pokémon holding it. Continuing past Route 118, we also received the Good Rod. With these new tools in hand, it was time to backtrack and catch previously unavailable Pokémon. On Route 111, we fished for a Barboach, and in Petalbrook City, we caught a Corphish. Next, on Route 110, we caught a Wailmer. On Route 118, a Carvana. Thanks to Surf, we gained access to the northern part of Rasboro City, where we caught a female Jigglypuff. After that, we made our way to New Mobile, where we evolved Nosepass into Probopass, and Magneton into Magnezone. While battling trainers on Route 118, several evolutions took place: Barboach into Whiscash, Corphish into Groudon, and Jigglypuff into Wigglytuff using a Moonstone. Shortly after, we returned with Steven Stone and met a stressed Latias, who asked for our help. She took us to a remote island, where we discovered Team Magma harassing Latios. After teaching them a lesson, Latios joined our team. We then returned to Route 118 and caught a Kecleon. We also made a short detour to visit the Berry Master and gather a massive amount of wild berries. With that done, we continued progressing through new routes, collecting items and battling every trainer we came across. On Route 119, we caught a Tropius, hatched an Igglybuff from a previous Livery Tech, and evolved Carvana into Sharpedo. Eventually, we reached the Weather Institute, where Team Magma was once again up to no good. After fighting our way through their grants, Wailmer evolved into Wailord. Upon defeating Admin Tabitha and speaking with the director, we were rewarded with a Castform. Once that was done, we caught the Phoebus. Not long after, we faced May in another rival battle. After our victory, she rewarded us with the useful HM2 Fly. Just a few steps later, we arrived at Fortress City. Before continuing, we used the Pokéblocks minigames to raise Phoebus' beauty stat, allowing us to evolve it into Milotic. Next, Steven Stone guided us to Route 120, where we caught an Absol and received the Devon Scope. We finished this section without much grinding, thanks to the sheer number of trainers on previous routes and the many tools we had at our disposal to speed up leveling. We quickly dispatched the gym trainers using Mega Sceptile, and then challenged Gym Leader Wainona. After defeating her, we earned the Feather Badge. From there, we crossed routes 121 and 122, doing our best to avoid trainers along the way. Eventually, we spotted Team Magma heading towards Mount Pyre. Before following them, we made a quick stop in Mobile City to pick up the Experience Point Power, another helpful tool for grinding. Then we headed to the Safari Zone, where we caught a wide variety of Pokémon: a female Pikachu, Psyduck, Doduo, a female Shadow, Rhyhorn, Pinsir, Girafarig, Heracross, and a female Donphan. After that, we arrived in Lilycove City. Later, we traveled south to Mount Pyre, where we had more catching to do. Inside the tower, we caught a Shuppet and Duskull, and during this time, the duo evolved into Dodrio. On the exterior portion of Mount Pyre, we caught a Meditite and a Vulpix. Before moving on, we had another encounter with Team Magma, and battled some of their higher-ups. Unfortunately, they still managed to steal the Red Orb. Before leaving Mount Pyre, we caught a female Kaimeco. We then flew to Slateport City, where Team Magma was once again causing trouble, this time stealing a submarine. After defeating several grants, Captain Stern sent us back to Lilycove City, where the Team Magma hideout was located. Before entering, we were challenged once again by May. During the battle, Psyduck evolved into Golduck. Finally, we entered the Team Magma hideout. Battling all the grants in there, Rhyhorn evolved into Rhydon, and Duskull into Dusclops. We also found a valuable item, the Master Ball. Eventually, we battled Kearney, who tried to delay us while the submarine escaped. After leaving the hideout, we headed toward Moss Deep City. On the way there, Shuppet evolved into Banette. Upon arriving in Moss Deep, we obtained the Super Rod. Before going back to previous locations to fish, we headed north to Shoal Cave, where we caught a Sealeo, 2 Snorun, one of them female, and a Spheal. During this, Meditite evolved into Medicham. Now it was time to go fishing all over Hoenn. In Lilikov, we fished up a rare 5% Stario, then caught a Look Disc and a 5% Corsola on Route 128, and finally a Horsey on Route 131. After battling many of the trainers we had previously skipped, several evolutions took place: Horsey into Seadra, Snorun into Glalie, and Sealeo into Walrein. Next, we start breeding. We hatch a Pichu, a Fanfi, a Natu, and a Chingling. After collecting the required evolution stones, we evolved Pikachu into Raichu with a Thunderstone, Staryu into Starmie with a Waterstone, the female Snorun into Frostlass using a Duskstone, and Bullpix into Ninetales using a Firestone. At this point, we had 170 Pokémon in our collection, around 50 hours of gameplay logged. If you know this game, you already know what's coming. We are about to double both the number of Pokémon we've caught and the time we've spent playing. Oh boy! I was dreading the time to try to summarize and explain all this section. It was a bit chaotic for me, but I'm going to try to explain the best way possible. I'm going to divide this part in two, but first things first. It was time to battle the gym leaders Tate and Liza, and receive the Mind Badge without much trouble. After that, we met with Steven Stone again, who gave us Gen 7 Dive, which will be needed for our next adventure. We then went straight to Route 128, so we could dive and find the seafloor cavern. Once we solved all the puzzles and defeated all the Team Magma Grunts, it was time to battle Maxi one last time. After beating him with this, he still managed to carry out his plan of reviving Groudon, which appeared in front of us in a spectacular cutscene. With Doomsday looming and nobody else willing to act despite their regrets, it was up to us to stop it. To do that, we needed to reach Sutopolis City. We dove to Route 126 and caught a Chinchou, a Lanturn, a Clamperl, and a Relicanth. Eventually, we arrived at our destination. After explaining the situation, Team Magma handed us a Magma suit, because apparently we were about to face molten lava head-on. Inside the Cave of Origin, we descended to find Groudon and leaped onto it with our brand new suit. Then it transformed into its primal state, and after many attempts, we managed to catch this powerful beast and end the global crisis. Following a cutscene where all of Hoenn returned to normal, Steven Stone rewarded us with the Ion Flute. Back in Little Root Town, Professor Birch updated our Pokédex with the National Dex. That concluded the first part of this stage. With the National Pokédex and the Ion Flute, a huge number of Pokémon became available. We could now find some in previously explored routes, others under special conditions, especially legendaries, and a final group that required pure RNG luck. The first two situations just require patience and a lot of money for Pokéballs and breeding. The latter is the one that still gives me nightmares. The Ion Flute grants access to Mirage spots, which change every 24 in-game hours. There's no legal way to speed this up. In fact, changing the system clock penalizes you by another 24 hours. The 3DS Street Pass feature could once increase daily spots, but it no longer works. I decided to do it anyway without cheating, meaning I had to check each day to see the one spot available. Some spots fell into the Special Conditions category, and all contained legendaries. Hopefully, that's clear enough. Now, here's what happened. I'm going to enumerate the catch Pokémon as I found them and where I found them. Be ready for a very long list of Pokémon. In the Pathless Pass, we caught Virizion, in the Nameless Cavern, an Esprit, and in the Mirage Cave, after collecting all items, as I did in every spot, we caught an Excadrill, a Ditto, and a Tynamo. Back in the Nameless Cavern, we caught a Zelf, in the Mirage Cave, a Slowpoke and a Cofagrigus, and in the Pathless Plain, a Terrakion that took many attempts. In the Mirage Mountain, we found a Vullaby, a fortress, and a cricketun. In the nameless cavern we caught Uxie, and in the pathless plain, a Cobalion. At this point, I began revisiting previous routes to catch more Pokémon. On Route 101, a Sewaddle, a Lillipup, and a Zorua. On Route 103, a Chatot and a Shellos. On Route 102, a Timpole and a Gothita. And on Route 104, a Chatot. In Petalburg Woods, we found a Cottonee, a Phantom, and a Paras. On Route 110, we caught a Travish. On Route 117, a Rattata and a Deerling. On Route 113, a Klefki, a Scraggy, and a Buffalan. And on Route 114, a Misdreavus and a Skorupi. In the Mirage Forest, we caught a Minccino, a Tangela, a Sunkern, and a Glamiau. While flying with Latios, I accidentally encountered and caught a Braviary. I took a short training break to earn much needed money, during which Tynamo evolved into Electric and then into Electros with a Thunderstone. Rattata evolved into Raticate, and Slowpoke evolved into Slowbro. After that, we went to the desert area and caught a Dwebble, a Sandile, and a Gible. On the Jagged Pass, a Ponyta, a Mankey, and 3 Tyrogue. In Granite Cave, a Timburr, an Axew, and an Onyx. In Meteor Falls, a Clefairy, a Deino, and a Drudigon. In Fiery Path, a Roggenrola and a Diglett. And on Route 112, a Throh. On Route 118, we caught an Aipom and a Luxio. On Route 121, an LGM and a Hypno. And in the Safari Zone, a Kakuna, a Bonieri, and a Pidgeotto. Keep in mind that most of these encounters came via the Dexnap. On Route 116, we caught a Tibi and a Joltik. Back at Shoal Cave, we caught a Dewgong, a Capchu, and a Delibird. And since we were there, we evolved an Eevee into Glacier. In Mount Pyre, we caught Growlithe and a Bronzor. On Route 105, we caught a Freelish, a Krabby, and a Skrelv. On Route 125, a Seal and a Finneon. And finally, on Route 122, an Alomomola, completing all the new Pokémon available in previous routes. While rematching trainers and battling in the sea and underwater areas, several evolutions occurred. Eevee into Umbreon, Bronzor into Bronzong, Sewaddle into Swatloon, Scraggy into Scrafty, Bullaby into Mandibus, Bunieri into Lopunny, and Skorupi into Drapion. Even at this stage, we continued using Spin encounters to save some trainers for later. With that, Pidgeotto evolved into Pidgeot, Roggenrola into Boldor, Swatloon into Libani, Krabby into Kingler, Travis into Garbodor, Copchu into Beartic, Kakuna into Vidril, and Eevee into Espion. While waiting for new Mirage spots, more evolutions followed. Finneon into Lumineon, Glamiau into Purugly, Ponyta into Rapidash, Freelish into Jellicent, Paras into Parasect, Mankey into Primeape, Sandile into Krokorok, Luxio into Luxray, Diglett into Dugtrio, Timburr into Gurdurr, Krokorok into Crocodile, and Deerling into Soseball. With Mirage Island available, I caught a Porygon, and also evolved Shellos into Gastrodon and Skrelv into Dragalge. Around this time, I discovered that you can share secret bases from other players, and surprisingly, this feature still works. You can still find on the internet secret bases designed especially for gaining XP quickly. Since I don't consider that cheating, I allowed it. I converted the secret meadow into our new training grounds, leaving the pure Spinda behind. Now it was time to beat Blissey. Combined with the Lucky Egg and the O powers, this sped up training and evolving dramatically. From this point on, a huge wave of evolutions followed. LGM to Beheyen, Pidove into Tranquil, Timpole into Palpito, Tranquil to Amphesan, Gible into Gabite, Gothita into Gothorita, Palpito to Seismitoad, Axew to Fracture, Zorua to Zoroark, Fracture into Haxorus, Gothorita to Gothitelle, Gible into Garchomp, Lillipup to Herdier, Joltik to Galvantula, Dwebble to Crustle, Herdier to Stoutland, a Tyrog to Hitmonlee, Tangela to Tangrowth, Ipom to Ambipom, and Deino into Zweilos and then Hydreigon. Before continuing, I used the Aeon Flute to find a Wild Murkrow and Drifloon, evolve a Tyrog into Hitmontop and another into Hitmonchan, stumbled upon a Mirage Forest with a Cherim, and evolved Drifloon into Drifblim. I also trained Lightnoon and my other two utility Pokémon, Crowdown and Tropius, since I will need a level 100 Pokémon later. Lightnoon, who had been with me since the beginning, reached max level quickly. This allowed me to discover a new Mirage spot and catch the legendary Reshiram. I also realized I had forgotten to pick up another egg from the old lady in Lavarich Town. From here, encounters started to be spaced out over several days or even weeks. In a Mirage Cave, I began collecting fossil Pokémon and, in the process, found my first shiny, an Onix. Using Rock Smash repeatedly, I obtained the Old Amber, Plume Fossil, Dome Fossil, and Armor Fossil. Back at Devon, I revived Kabuto, Aerodactyl, Shieldon, and Archen, quickly evolving them into Bastiodon, Kabutops, and Archeops. A few days later, Mirage Island yielded Larvesta and Darmanitan, with Larvesta quickly evolving into Volcarona. Another Mirage Island offered Persian, Zebstrika, and Venomoth. In Mirage Mountain, I cocked an Elekid, which evolved into Electabuzz, and my egg hatched into a Togepi. Another Mirage Mountain provided Rufflet, while Mirage Island gave me Audino and a Binacle via Rock Smash, which quickly evolved into Barbaracle. In a Mirage Cave, I cocked Kling, evolved it into Clang, and then into Klinklang, and Togepi evolved into Togetic. Mirage Forest broke the Happy New, and I later found one holding an oval stone, allowing me to evolve it into Chansey. Another Mirage Forest had Petilil, and another Mirage Mountain yielded Magby, which evolved into Magmar, while Chansey evolved into Blissey. Mirage Island gave me Muna. Crescent Island offered the legendary Cresselia, and a Mirage Cave was home to the entire alphabet of Unknown, which took a lot of time and quick balls since I wanted them all. These two last locations had been my main worries, but there were still two missing Pokémon, and days and weeks kept passing, feeding my desperation. Hunting for Mirage spots wasn't my only daily task. I also started collecting flags and decorations from the 6 secret bases in Secret Meadow. The flags respawn daily, and I needed 1000 to reach max rank in the Secret Base Guild. By this point, I had 653 flags and a mountain of items. Dividing this by the 6 maximum daily flags gave me the number of days spent in this pre-batch stage, 108 days. Over 3 months of checking almost daily. I think I missed less than 10 days. Eventually, I decided enough was enough and used a guide to RNG the 2 missing spots. Looking back, I should have used a PKSM script to force the spots. Game Freak's time-based mechanics, now crippled by closed services, are truly frustrating. I could rant about this for hours, but let's keep moving forward. With the RNG done, I caught Stanler on Mirage Mountain and Maractus on Mirage Island. Finally, Mirage spots were complete, but I still had plenty of Pokémon left to get. First, I was broke, so I battled every trainer on routes 132, 133 and 134 using the Amulet coin and picked up all the items. I did the same at Seamobile, where I caught a Spiritomb, obtained the scanner for later, and found a hidden treasure stash to sell. I even enjoyed the little story hidden in the wreck. With money sorted, I moved to breeding a variety of Pokémon: Drillbur, Cherubi, Yamask, Pineco, Kricketot, Blitzer, Venonat, Darumaka, Cleffa, Meowth, Shinx, Weedle, Drowsy, and Pidgey. Next came Stone evolutions: Sunkern into Sunflora with a Sunstone, Petilil into Lilligant, also with a Sunstone, Minccino into Cinccino with a Shiny Stone, Muna into Musharna with a Moonstone, Murkrow into Hunchcrow with a Duskstone, Eevee into Flareon with a Firestone, Eevee into Jolteon with a Thunderstone, Eevee into Vaporeon with a Waterstone, Cottony into Whimsicott with a Sunstone, Clefairy into Clefable with a Moonstone, Growlithe into Arcanine with a Firestone, Misdreavus into Mismagius with a Duskstone, and Togetic into Togekiss with a Shiny Stone. I also secured the final 2 evolutions, Leafeon in Petalburg Woods and Sylveon. With almost everything in place, it was time for the Regi Trio. I unlocked their caves, then cocked Regirock on Route 111, Regice on Route 105, and Registeel on Route 120. I also fully explored the Scorch Slab on Route 120 to find a Heatran, which took an absurd amount of Pokeballs to catch. After delivering the scanner to Captain Stern, I received the Clear Bell, allowing me to return to Seamoville and catch Ho-Oh. With all the 3 Regis in my party, I then cocked Regigigas on Route 105. Having Ho-Oh with me, let me find and catch Raikou, Entei, and Suicune in the trackless forest. With Castform on my team, I was able to catch Tornadus, and with the Lake Guardians present on my team, I could find Palkia. Finally, this nightmare was over, with nearly 95 hours of gameplay in total, which, all things considered, wasn't too bad. Now it's finally time to face the next gym leader. We quickly defeated gym leader Wallace, earning our final badge, the Rain Badge. We also received the last HM, Waterfall, which gave us access to a new area in Meteor Falls. There, we cocked Bagon, and evolved it into Shelgon, then into Salamence. And that's it, the shortest part of the challenge by far. Now it's time to finish the game. It was time to face the Elite Four. We reached Evergrande City using Waterfall and made our way through Victory Road, collecting all items and battling every trainer along the way. At the end, we had one last battle against Wally before finally arriving at the Pokémon League. There, we challenged the Elite Four: Sydney, Phoebe, Glacia, and Drake, before defeating champion Steven. Our utility Pokémon, who had been essential throughout the journey, joined us in the Hall of Fame. After the credits, May challenged us to a final battle, and with that complete, we entered the Delta episode. I won't go into full detail, but here's the short version of the story. We met Xena, received a Johto starter from Professor Birch, I picked Cyndaquil, and evolved quickly into Quilava. After helping the Stone family and battling Xena in Granite Cave, we learned the meteorite was on course to destroy the world. Several smaller tasks follow, during which Team Magma caused trouble, but also helped Quilava evolve into Typhlosion. Xena stole everyone's Mega Evolution ability, leading us to the Sky Pillar. Inside, we cocked an Ariados, and briefly detoured from our quest to breed a Spinarak. Returning to the mission, we battled and cocked Rayquaza, then flew into space to face Deoxys, catching it with the Master Ball. With the second Doomsday of this run averted, Professor Birch gave us an Unova starter, Snivy, and Steven gifted us a Beldum. After that, with Wally, we headed to Battle Resort. There, we cocked a Remoraid and a Mantike, evolving them into Mantine and Octillery, using a rare candy for each Pokémon. Lastly, we trained Snivy into Servine, and then to Serperior. After EV training both Beldum and Suicune, we evolved Beldum into Metang and then to Metagross. With these new 2 powerhouses and our utility team, we challenged the Elite Four rematches. Finally, Professor Birch awarded us with a Sinnoh starter, Piplup, which we evolved into Prinplup and then to Empoleon, completing the challenge. Despite all my ranting about Mirage spots, I had a lot of fun with this challenge. It was actually easier than the Pokémon Y playthrough, thanks to having far more tools at our disposal. These challenges can test your patience, but they also push you to make full use of every bit of the game's mechanics, and I think that's what makes them such a great experience. I hope you'll join me for the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with my latest content. Keep training and take care!